Hello, this is Amanda Hall's 7.1 final research project marked Stress in the Modern World. A topic most people are familiar with, stress. Exactly how stressed are adult Americans today? There is a lot of substantial research over the last few decades marking this topic. The results from the APA, or the American Psychiatric Association, shows that as of 2024, U.S. adults are as stressed and anxious as ever. In 2024, 43% of adults said they feel more stressed than they did the previous year, which is nearly a 40% markup from 2022 and 2023. There are several current events that attribute to this. There are economy, the election, gun violence, personal relationships, etc. Women are usually at the top. Nearly 40% of women polled by the Mental Health Foundation this year felt high levels of stress personally related to their appearance, their first physical appearance, and their body image, a much higher rate than men. 19% of men reporting feeling stressed in 2023, and nearly 32% of all people that were part of all of these research studies cited financial debt and housing worries as a major stressor in their lives. So how does our stress and anxiety contribute to our overall physical and mental health? I'm sure everyone is well aware that anxiety and stress can take a toll on your physical body as well as your emotional state. Individuals frequently retract from social interaction under high levels of stress and can become irritable, angry, hostile, or isolate themselves from others. The predisposition to antisocial behaviors, which can become social detachment and even violence, is usually undertaken in early years of life when there's a large amount of stress combined. These life stress triggers depend on the timing, genetic factors, environmental factors, sociological factors, biological factors. The list is kind of endless. Substantial research on people and animals reveal functional and molecular changes in our brains that can continually underlie the effects of stress as it relates to our personal behavior, our social behavior, and how we interact with others every day. A lot of related research facts, mostly annotated by the Anxiety and Depression Association of America from this past year in 2024, just gives a little bit of insight into how stress can affect our bodies physically and in our emotional states. Generalized anxiety disorders affect almost 7 million adults and 3.7 of the U.S. population. And interestingly enough, 43% of that is only receiving treatment, which means the other half is undiagnosed and or untreated. Health experts can speculate that stress can attribute to nearly 70 to 85 of all diseases. Long-term stress creates risk for mental health challenges, makes you more sensitive. It can have huge negative impacts on our general life outlook and our goals, our jobs, our school. Stress affects our body's physiological responses and can have severe implications on our own physical health. Stress strains the body, puts it on high alert, which can cause diseases, fevers, inflammation, wearing down of our immune system, and overall increase the risk of getting sick, ailments, heart disease, weight gain, heart attack, digestive issues, etc. This is just sort of infographic overview from the American Psychological Association regarding stress in 2023. Some of its positive perceptions, 81% rated their physical health as good or better, but 66% were told by their healthcare providers that they do indeed have chronic illness, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and arthritis being the top three. 81% of people rated their mental health as good or better, but nearly 40% said they were diagnosed with a mental health condition by a professional. The percent who report they've been told by a healthcare provider was 24% anxiety disorders and 23% depression. So the overall purpose of this research was to investigate the direct relationships between specific large-scale stressors and stress levels within the American adult population. This study sort of seeks to shed a light on a more personal or centralized perspective on common societal questions. And also, how do these stressors vary across different demographic groups? men over 30, under 30, women over 30, and under 30. And of these top 5 primary stressors that I will get to, which one is deemed the most stressful, which of these 5 is deemed the least, do the results vary based on gender, and do the results vary based on age? These surveys are worded. It'll be qualitative data that was collected, and then with statistical analysis, it's converted into quantitative data later on. The factors. Our independent variables are going to be our anonymous participants of various ages and various genders. Our dependent variables are the dependent variables in this study, which is going to be the stress levels of our participants based on the rating scale responses that I have and their stress scale responses. 2 different surveys were used in this study in order to gather relevant data. The material survey number 1 was called the Perceived Stress Scale, otherwise known as the PSS, which is a large-scale standardized stress assessment instrument approved by the American Sociological Association. It's used in every state in the United States by mental health professionals and physicians. It's usually considered the gold standard for measuring stress perception just because of its easy availability and it's easy to understand. It's kind of short and sweet. It captures a respondent's subjective to life circumstances and their ability to manage stress in their own lives daily. It asks them to rate their feelings and thoughts over a 30-day period, and then it is analyzed by the professionals after. This is the official copy of the PSS, the Perceived Stress Scale. It shows you the rating scale. There are 10 questions within the parameters. They're obtained at fixed intervals within a 30-day period. And then the answers from the respondents are averaged together and summed across all the scale items for easy grading. The second survey was a research-developed scale-based survey by myself, which targets the 5 primary stress sources identified by the American Sociological Association in 2023. Participants were asked to rank each topic based on how those factors affect their daily lives in order from least stressful to the most stressful. The 5, which are ranked in no specific order, are personal finances and or debt, future of the nation or politics, violence, for example, mass shootings, assaults, burglary, etc., personal physical health, and personal relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, etc. This is just a copy of the researcher developed questionnaire. You can see the questions, and then they're ranked from not very, neutral to very. The participants for this research study were chosen at random as part of a convenient sampling, and they were categorized by their independent variables such as their demographical, genders, and ages. Because this is not going to be repeated, this is a non-repeated measure design. The study sample consists of 80 participants equally divided by gender, 20 females over 30, 20 males over 30, 20 females under 30, and 20 males under 30. This is just a visual to give everyone an idea of the independent variables matched next to the dependent variables and the factors that they correlate with. This is the beginning of the results from PSS survey number 1. The numerical data was examined and analyzed and put into bar graphs and averaged to make it a little bit easier to understand. These are the older participants, women over 30 and men over 30, and the stress levels are color-coded, and they go from 0 being no stress to 4 is the highest amount of stress. Interestingly, if you can see the left side, women starts at a 2, which is a moderate amount of stress, and the older men are the only ones that had 2 respondents claim 0, which is no stress. This is a continuance of the same bar graphs. These 2 are for the younger participants, the women under 30 and the men under 30 stress level averages. This is just the statistical averages using the T-scale. This gives you the mean, median, mode, and standard deviation of the PSS survey results. As you can see, the average highest amount was the demographic group of women over the age of 30, and the lowest scoring demographic was men over the age of 30. So kind of interesting, men and women, but both over the ages had completely conflicting views on the amount of stress that they have daily. The overall results from the PSS survey showed a significant gender disparity in stress levels, which was what I just mentioned before. The female participants, regardless of their age, if they were over the age of 30 or under, always reported substantially higher stress levels than the male participants. Females over 30 were the most effective, with 45% experienced the highest stress levels, followed by the females coming in at about 30%. Conversely, 10% of the men over 30 reported no stress at all, which is a unique finding because they were the only ones. This page begins the results from the researcher developed survey, part 2, which was the participants having to rate the top 5 stressors as marked by the APA. Each survey question was broken down, collected, and averaged out and put in their own corresponding bar graphs to separate the data and make it easier to understand. SPSS software was used to put in the complete averages of each demographic in order to make it easier to understand. So each bar shows the percentage of people that rated that response or that question. This is just continued bar graphs for each survey question. Question 3 and 4. Question 3 was regarding violence, and question 4 was regarding physical health. As you can see, the men are scoring lower, and the women are scoring higher per average for each question in this page. This was the final survey question with its final graph, which was related to personal relationships. As you can see, women over 30 and women under 30 had completely identical statistical averages at 28.3%, and men over 30 coming in with the lowest at only 18.3%. Some of the results to take away from this, the results determined that responses for question 1, which was related to finances, was around equal in distribution among all ages and genders, with an average of nearly 25% of responses per column. Question 2, which was related to politics, showed the largest disparity in stress trigger popularity between men, women, and ages. Men showed the lowest rate of stress regarding American politics, with a nearly 20% response under a scale of 1, which was no to little stress at all, compared to the highest response by women under the age of 30 at 27.7%. So politics had the widest array of answers. One thing I felt it was important to note is when asked about the opinions of public violence, women had the largest and most significant increase of heightened responses, with a 26 to 28.1% response, noting this stress factor was highly stressful, and that went for both women over 30 and under. There was only about a 2.3% disparity between the two. Little fact, by the APA, older men ages 45 to 64 are more likely to say they have a chronic illness last year than compared to 2019, which is a 73% down to a 68%. This age demographic also saw an increase in mental health diagnoses reported in 2023 to 2019. There was about a 10% increase in mental illness in older men. The views on physical health in this research study showed that physical health among men was the most varied responses. Older men displayed the lowest notion of stress regarding their physical health, with an average of 19%, and the young men totaling an average of 6% higher than their elder gender group. This kind of contradicts the national average findings, with physical health usually areas low responses in both age groups. This study showed that younger men are more stressed about their physical health than their older counterparts. A little bit more data regarding personal relationships. Both older and younger women resulted in the same total average responses. and continuing sort of that pattern of decreased response in men. Older men displayed the lowest amount of stress levels in personal relationships, which sort of matches their own stress levels in their own physical health. A little statistic data that correlates with the research responses here. Multiple studies have noted that men throughout generations experience stress differently than their female counterparts. Everybody knows about the natural reaction of fight or flight. Some people believe in it and some people don't. But the classic symptoms of fight or flight have evolved as a survival mechanism to help people react quickly to threatening situations. This can also correlate into stress. Men typically have a fight or flight response when they are faced with stressful emotions or situations. This kind of evolves and is related to stress hormones and chemicals that are released within the body. Men have different chemical components than women. That's part of the fight response. Other people might have emotional feelings of helpless, anxiety, frustration, which motivates them to retreat into bad moods or sleep, dissociation, social isolation, and that's part of the flight response of the chemical reaction. Some of the discussion with this research, the results of this study correlate heavily with a lot of national statistic facts regarding stress levels and whether or not gender and age are impacted differently or felt differently by different factors within their own lives. Secondary analysis through this research shows a more comparable average related to stress components. Another important thing is that men tend to dissociate from feelings of stress, while women seem inclined to internalize their stress, which in turn can contribute to higher rates of mental and emotional disorders later on. In each of the survey questions, 1.1 to 1.5, which was the national stress triggers, men statistically averaged lowered responses compared to female regardless of their age. So because of all these statistic averages from this research study where men categorically had lower stress rates than women of all ages, does that conclude that women are more stressed than men? According to the APA 2023 Stressed America survey, over 60,000 people were surveyed. Women consistently reported higher average stress levels than men. Women are also more likely to rate their stress as more intense on a scale of 1 to 10 compared to men. Whether that is generational, the discussion of how genders and age react to and resolve stress is a paradox. That's something that people could talk about for days on end. But with this study, it was comparable to the national average that women consistently feel more stressed. Accumulated mean averages of all questions, 9.5% showed that the question regarding current politics proved to be the most stressful across the board. Interesting to think that because it's 2024 and we just ended a major election that seemed to divide the country, you have to wonder if that's one of the reasons why this question was so high averaged. The question with the lowest average of stress, which accumulated around 8.8% between all participants, was question number 3 regarding personal finances. This result was a little surprising due to a lot of contradicting statistics on national average regarding personal stress over finances, paychecks, student debt, household debt, groceries, mortgages, student loans. This seems to be a huge thing, but it is also important to remember this participant group was only 80 people, so you have to take the data for what it is. Going further into personal finances, 85% of Americans in a published study by the National Endowment for Financial Education confirmed that personal finance is causing severe stress right now. Most of the common concerns are savings accounts, having enough saved for retirement, paying healthcare insurance and bills, job security, credit card debt, rent and mortgage payments. Combining several stressors related to savings and paying bills, 56% reported having enough saved as a top stressor in their life, and 44% reported paying bills as a top stressor as well. Extensive research conducted within the U.S. every year has consistently indicated that females exhibit higher level stress of anxiety, which is what we've already gone over. So it's not unexpected that the women in this study surpass men. Reflecting on the empirical question from the beginning that asked if the results would vary based on gender or age, the answer is likely yes within this group parameter of respondents. The results collected from the PSS questionnaire and the researcher-constructed survey showed that women, regardless of age, were determined by a statistical degree that their results showed higher stress levels than all the male participants combined.